I had a viewer request that I check out the Circle of Spores Druid. If you guys have any requests for a subclass you want me to take a look at, leave it down in the comments below. Maybe check in my catalog and see if I haven't already done it. So this subclass has had an interesting life. We saw it in an Unearthed Arcana, and I'll pull that up now. As it initially stood, I don't know that anyone really felt like the Circle of Spores Druid was really out of control. Not like anything that we've seen in some of the recent Unearthed Arcana. I think it might be interesting to compare and contrast the two, the Unearthed Arcana and the subclass. And yeah, you guys are going to get some of my opinions on this pretty deep class, and it's kind of interesting to see what happened with it throughout its life. So the Druids in the Circle of Spores find beauty in decay. They see within mold and other fungi the ability to transform lifeless material into abundant, albeit somewhat strange life. These Druids believe that life and death are parts of a grand cycle, with one leading into the other and then back again. Death isn't the end of life, but instead a change of state that sees life shift into a new form. Druids of this circle have a complex relationship with the undead. Unlike most other Druids, they see nothing inherently wrong with undeath, which they consider to be a companion to life and death, but these Druids believe that the natural cycle is healthiest when each segment of it is vibrant and changing. Undead that seek to replace all life with undeath, or that try to avoid passing into a final rest, violate the cycle and must be thwarted. I love the flavor text. I absolutely love this flavor text. I love what this subclass is trying to be. I like this necrotic kind of druid in concept. I can't say enough how much I absolutely love this as a class concept. I think it totally deserves justification being in the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Circle of Spores features. So interestingly, the Circle of Spores is one of the only Druid subclasses that does get circle spells. The Circle of Wildfire got them most recently, and then the Circle of the Land gets some depending on what choice you choose. So what do they get out of their circle spells? Well, for one, you get the Chill Touch cantrip. Chill Touch, make a ranged spell attack against a creature to assail it with a touch from the grave. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 necrotic damage, and it can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. Until then, the hand clings to the target. Cool cantrip, ranged necrotic damage, always cool, fun. Yeah, necrotic damage is a great damage type to get. Very few things in the game resist necrotic damage, so get a pretty strong cantrip out of that. 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th level, you gain access to the spells listed for that level in the Circle of Spores spells table. You have it always prepared, doesn't count against the number of spells, you can prepare each day, yada yada yada. So what are these spells? You get Blindness, Deafness, Gentle Repose here at 3rd level. Blindness, Deafness was not in the Unearthed Arcana one. They got Ray of Enfeeblement instead. I think it was a suggestion or maybe some feedback that they got. Now it's pretty widely perceived that Ray of Enfeeblement is not a fantastic spell. Blindness, Deafness gives them some utility. Some things that they can do that aren't specifically combat related. Gentle Repose, I marked in red. I just think that spell is entirely forgettable. I've tried making some uses out of it. I've played a cleric for over like 2 years, really trying to figure out how to make this spell impactful on the game. It's extremely niche. Here on Druid, it's like, okay, you know. 5th level, Animate Dead. I think Animate Dead is one of the strongest spells in the game. Gaseous Form. Gaseous Form is pretty cool. You transform a willing creature you touch, along with everything it's wearing and carrying, into a misty cloud for the duration. Spell ends and the creature drops to 0 hit points. An incorporeal creature isn't affected. While in this form, the target's only method of movement is a flying speed of 10 feet. The target can enter and occupy the space of another creature. The target has resistance to non-magical damage, and it has advantage on strength, dexterity, and constitution saving throws. So it is keeping its hit points. This is, as far as like maybe scouting or let's just say dungeon crawl scenarios, Gaseous Form is a fantastic spell. Animate Dead, one of the more powerful spells, at least in my opinion, in the game. Totally deserves to be on here. This subclass needed this absolutely in order to justify its flavor and its existence. You're getting bodies to throw at whatever you want and make attacks with, and you needed to make this happen. Blight is an alright spell. 8d8 necrotic damage. You don't have to take it out of your Druid spell list. I guess it's just a direct enhancement to the base Druid as compared to some of the other classes, because now you don't have to pick this one and prepare it. It's just always there. It's an option, great against plant creatures, magical plants, so treants, shambling mounds, you're not going to really worry about them anymore. Yeah, light's cool. Confusion, I'm having trouble really figuring out what I think of. I guess you could say I'm confused by it. The way I feel about confusion is I wish this would have just been another condition in the game, where once you're afflicted with the confused condition, you roll a d10 and this stuff happens. I think it could have really drastically expanded the palette of 5e, and then make confusion a spell that inflicts the confused condition. I think there was just a little bit of a, there's a hiccup here, I think. Yeah, it might just be personal taste, whatever, but I really wish that confused was an actual condition instead of being something that you refer to whenever you're trying to get the effects of a spell to make the confused condition. Sorry, now I'm going on kind of a design rant now, but I just don't think it's that fantastic or reliable of a spell, especially as a 4th level spell. A lot of other things I would rather be doing with that spell slot. Pretty significant in how many creatures it can affect. I overall, though, think that Confusion is kind of a flavor fail of a spell. I almost wish that this was called, like, Mass Hysteria, because, I mean, you're going to be confusing multiple creatures. If Confusion was, like, a 1st level spell that inflicted the confused condition on one creature, I think I would have been much happier with how this was all negotiated from a design standpoint. Moving on from Confusion, Cloud Kill. Cloud Kill, I think, is a decent spell. 5d8 poison damage that lingers there for a duration of like 10 minutes. It does move 10 feet away from you on each of your turns. You can't really control where it's going except for your own positioning. You might argue that, like, once you put it there, you can move around and kind of guide it, I guess. Sure, maybe. I don't know, that seems like an odd kind of negotiation for that. I do think Cloud Kill is okay. However, it is dealing poison damage. You're not getting access to this until 9th level. And you guys have heard me say it before. If you're dealing poison damage at this tier of play in the game, that's just, you're not going to be doing a whole lot to many creatures with that damage type. There's just a lot of stuff that's either straight up immune to it or resistant to poison damage. Hey, so I'm over here now looking at Contagion. Just wanted to get my camera out of the way. So, Contagion is a spell that has had some contention ever since the Player's Handbook was released. It did get errated. Contagion, what people had kind of figured out, or, well, I guess the confusion really came down to trying to figure out when the disease actually kicked in. You know, if it was on a hit, if that meant that it was diseased, and then if it made the saves, it was no longer diseased. The problem with Contagion is it's not just one saving throw. It gets 3 chances to try and make the saving throw. Damn well better make them, because these diseases are fucking insane. Especially Slimy Doom. Slimy Doom is straight up busted. If anything manages to get inflicted with Slimy Doom, it's dead. It's straight up, you are going to end a combat with Slimy Doom. That is one of the most insane effects on any spell whatsoever. Slimy Doom basically turns everybody in your party into a monk that is just blowing key points on Stunning Strike. It's insane. So what does Contagion do? Why do I feel that the spell is so bad now? You make a melee attack against a creature if you hit, so here we have one condition, right? If you hit it, the target is poisoned. There's so many things, especially since you're getting this at 9th level, so many things that are immune to being poisoned. So this spell might just be blowing a 5th level spell slot, and then you're learning, oh hey, it's poisoned. That's all the information you get out of it. Doesn't enhance the attack, you don't get extra damage to it, it's literally just, it will poison it. If that condition cannot be met, then you just blew your 5th level spell slot. Contagion is a trap, and it is a really, really, really cool looking trap. So let's get further into it. At the end of each of the poison target's turns, the target must make a Constitution saving throw. If the target succeeds on 3 of these saves, it is no longer poisoned and the spell ends. If the target fails on 3 of these saves, the target is no longer poisoned, but choose one of the diseases below. The target is subjected to the chosen disease for the spell's duration. Since the spell induces a natural disease in its target, any effect that removes a disease or otherwise
Ameliorate.
Thank you, Google. Or otherwise ameliorates a disease's effects apply to it. Okay, so first off we have Blinding Sickness. I think this one's alright. Pain grips the target. Pain grips the target. Why am I having so much trouble with that? First off we have Blinding Sickness. Pain grips the creature's mind and its eyes turn milky white. The creature has disadvantage on wisdom checks and wisdom saving throws and is blinded. There's a lot of spells that are going to call for a wisdom save. You can potentially synergize this with most effects that are going to frighten or charm it. Pretty cool. Once it's blinded, attacks against it are going to have advantage. Filth Fever, a raging fever sweeps through the creature's body. The creature has disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws and attack rolls at each strength. If you know that the creature is specifically using strength, this can be cool. I don't think that after everything else and compared to everything on this list, on these options, that you're ever going to take Filth Fever, though. It just seems, after all that, just to inflict disadvantage on strength checks, strength saving throws, and attack rolls that use strength. I just don't think that's a decent option. Flesh Rot. The creature's flesh decays. The creature has disadvantage on charisma checks and a vulnerability to all damage. It doesn't say charisma saving throws on here either, except it has the most appealing, I think, upon initial viewing, the most appealing thing with the vulnerability to all damage, right? That would be insane if you got the rest of it to go off. I guess I understand the reason why they didn't include charisma saving throws on this. Mind Fire. The creature's mind becomes feverish. The creature has disadvantage on all intelligence checks and intelligence saving throws, and the creature behaves as if under the effects of the confusion spell during combat. I mean, it's an enhancement to the confusion spell, but like, confusion's just not that fantastic, especially not after all the other conditions just to get this effect. Mind Fire just seems really blah. Seizure. The creature is overcome with shaking. The creature has disadvantage on dexterity checks, dexterity saving throws, and attack rolls that use dexterity. That would probably be one of the better effects in this had fucking Slimy Doom not existed. Slimy Doom is crazy insane. The creature begins to bleed uncontrollably. The creature has disadvantage on constitution checks and constitution saving throws. In addition, whenever the creature takes damage, it is stunned until the end of its next turn. It is stunned until the end of its next turn. Whenever the creature takes damage, no saving throw, no nothing, it is stunned. That is absolutely absurd. This is the most tempting trap to try and make this spell work, because you're going to end fights with this super easy if you can make it go off. You have to wait a minimum of 3 rounds, a maximum of 6. I could get into all the math behind this, into why Contagion may possibly work. Some spells, some builds can be made that will abuse this spell. I don't think that that's necessarily healthy for the game. I don't think it would be good for Contagion as it's written to be a very viable spell. I think Contagion needs a rework. This is the spell that I will say, if they're considering doing a reprint of the player's handbook, they need to take a look at Contagion, and well, you can see just how hard this spell swings, right? If it meets all these conditions, sure, that's great and everything, but like, this is super unreliable. You're not going to be encountering many things that can be poisoned. In the niche situation where you get Contagion to work and you get Slimy Doom to pop off, then it just ends fights. Like, I just don't really think that that's healthy for the game. You can disagree with me, whatever you want to say. I just don't think that this spell overall is healthy for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. That's my opinion. Again, subjective, so yeah. Anyways, let me go back over to the subclass. Halo of Spores, 2nd level. You're surrounded by invisible necrotic spores that are harmless until you unleash them on a creature nearby. When a creature you can see moves into a space within 10 feet of you or starts its turn there, you can use your reaction to deal 1d4 necrotic damage to that creature unless it succeeds on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. The necrotic damage increases to 1d6 at 6th level, 1d8 at 10th level, and 1d10 at 14th level. God, that almost tripped me up seeing that. How did this get changed from the Unearthed Arcana? So it used to just deal flat damage, and it didn't require the Constitution save. Some people have complained that the requirement that you have to expend your reaction and it requires a Constitution save to deal 1d4 damage feels a little weak. I don't really like the way that it appeared in the Unearthed Arcana because dealing flat damage just doesn't feel that... It doesn't feel like D&D to me, you know? We have these dice, let's roll them, like, let's do something cool. I like the scaling of the new one. I think that initially just guaranteeing that it does this, you know, there's enough creatures that are resistant to poison damage later on. I don't know if that's really enough for me to really feel that you can just remove that part of it, especially because opportunity attacks are still tied into needing to at least succeed on an attack roll. Yeah, and it's Halo of Spores is going to get better here in a second. As it exists right now, I feel like it's okay. I've heard a lot of people complain about this. I just don't know that I feel like that's super terrible of a thing to require for this effect. I guess it's just kind of an easy comparison to make whenever you think, like, what else can I use with my reaction? Opportunity attack, cool. This only deals 1d4 damage. No bonus with my wisdom mod or anything like that. Why would I ever use this? And so then it feels weak, right? Symbiotic Entity. At 2nd level, you gain the ability to channel magic into your spores. As an action, you can expend the use of your wild shape feature to awaken those spores rather than transforming into a beast form, and you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in this class. I'll pause it right there. I love the uses of wild shape as a resource that you can expend in ways other than transforming into a beast. I wish it was tied more into a shapeshiftery possible nature of the Druid instead of how we currently see it, where it's kind of locked down. I know, like, Ross really hates wild shape. He said that he feels like it's super clunky, really wordy. Go check out that class variant video if you want to go see that. And I like wild shape for what it does. I just don't know that that should be so hard set into the identity of every single Druid. That could get into design philosophy, all that right there. But anyways, I do like it here as a resource. You gaining the temporary hit points feels pretty... it's a means to overcome the use of the resource, getting you more hit points from becoming a beast, really. While the feature is active, you gain the following benefits. When you deal your Halo of Spores damage, roll the damage die a second time and add it to the roll. Your melee weapon attacks deal an extra 1d6 poison damage to any target they hit. Marked up poison damage. I just kind of keep complaining about poison damage. I don't want to harp on that. These benefits last for 10 minutes until you lose all these temporary hit points or you use your wild shape again. It's making your Halo of Spores better. They're getting so much. It's a very bloated 2nd level, right? I guess because you get the expanded spellcasting, realistically, they're getting 3 features here. I guess like 2.5, right? They are getting like 2.5 because you're getting your Halo of Spores and then the Symbiotic Entity, which can help that out. I like the flavor here that's happening. Do I think mechanically that this is all super sound? I think it's strong. I think it's very strong. I think there's a lot that can happen with this. I'm feeling it out. I'm feeling it out. Once I actually have a character really play Halo of Spores at my table, or I play one myself, I may do another video on it. But as of right now, I think Symbiotic Entity is just fantastic. So, moving on, Fungal Infestation. This, I feel like, is the weakest feature that they get here. You're really coming into the necromantic power of your Druid. You're also getting your Animate Dead feature, so this is where it's like, okay, now we're becoming like Lich hippie, right? Fungal Infestation. At 6th level, your spores gain the ability to infest a corpse and animate it. If a beast or humanoid that is small or medium dies within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to animate it, causing it to stand up immediately with 1 hit point. Well, there's a lot of stipulations that just happen in that sentence. If a beast or humanoid that is small or medium dies within 10 feet of you, I guess this is to prevent you from just killing cats and animating zombies. Like, now I'm just, oh my god, now it's almost worth it to say, you know what, just say medium or smaller and just make this a druid that like goes out and hunts down cats at night. I love that concept. And that's hilarious to me. It's also kind of removed the bag of rats strategy, right? Where like once you tie resources into the death of a creature, what's to keep you from just punching a bag of rats and like getting whatever out of it. It animates with 1 hit point. Alright. The creature uses the zombie stat block in the monster manual. It remains animate for 1 hour, after which time it collapses and dies. In combat, on the zombie's turn, it comes immediately after yours. It obeys your mental commands, and the only action it can take is the attack action, making 1 melee attack. Okay? You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once. You regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. So now we're seeing a major separation since the Circle of Spores Druid to the release of the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, where something like this, where you get a creature that has 1 hit point that you can essentially use as a meat shield. Here in the Circle of Spores Druid, Wizards felt like this was at least strong enough to tie to a limited resource, whereas we go over to the Wildmount look and we look at the Echo Knight, they just get to do this all the time. Just pop up this body, bam, bam, bam. And fungal infestation, I think, is weak, and I think now that we're seeing a class or a subclass come up that has I don't want to say nearly identical feature, but there's a lot less tied into making that Echo Knight happen than what is tied into making fungal infestation happen. And you get it at an earlier level. I think without a doubt you can say fungal infestation is objectively weaker than the Echo Knight's introductory feature. Straight up. I don't think this is that fantastic. I wish that the zombie might be able to do some other stuff for you. It obeys your mental commands, and the only action it can take is the attack action. Like, it obeys your mental commands, and all you can command it to do is to attack, I guess, move. Can't interact with objects. It can't, yeah. Fungal infestation, I just feel, is very blah. Spreading spores. At 10th level, you gain the ability to seed an area with deadly spores. As a bonus action, while your symbiotic entity feature is active, you can hurl spores up to 30 feet away, where they swirl in a 10-foot cube for 1 minute. The spores disappear early if you use this feature again, if you dismiss them as a bonus action, or if your symbiotic entity feature is no longer active. Whenever a creature moves into the cube or starts its turn there, that creature takes your Halo of Spores damage, unless the creature succeeds on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. A creature can take this damage no more than once per turn. While a cube of spores persists, you can't use your Halo of Spores reaction. I don't think I understand necessarily why, other than for narration's sake, that while the cube of spores persists, you can't use your Halo of Spores reaction. That part of that feels clunky. Was that in the original? You can't use your Halo of Spores feature, but any creature that starts its turn in the cube takes your Halo of Spores damage. It looks like this may have been changed just for the sake of clarifying some wordage here. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see why. I don't really know why, other than the fact that you put this for field out somewhere that you can't use the reaction. Maybe just for narration's sake, or it's giving you a little bit much to do during yeah. Maybe it's just a lot of area that you're able to cover with that. Spreading spores, it's straight up just another thing you can do with your symbiotic entity feature. Your symbiotic entity feature is already really good. This enhances it. You can't use your circle or your Halo of Spores reaction. This is letting you attack at range with your spreading of spores. I just don't see a way that this is weak. It's a great feature. Fungal body. So here's where I start to feel like I just don't really understand. This felt very slapped on, and I don't really understand why fungal body is here. Of course it's good. It's great. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or poisoned, and any critical hit against you counts as a normal hit unless you're incapacitated. Like, that's all super strong. I'd love to know the narration for why that is. Of course, mechanically, it's there. It's good. Always good. You just get condition immunities. Those are always fantastic. If these are condition immunities that are shared by, like, Mike and Id or something like that. The Circle of Spores, I'm going to give an A to, and the reason I'm not giving it an S, the way I feel about the circle spells is kind of all over the place. Gentle Repose, I think, is mostly useless, except for the purpose of, like, your friend dies, you don't have a diamond, I'm going to use Gentle Repose until I can get a diamond, or maybe get a diamond, I don't know, so he'll be alright for a little while. That seems like a really niche situation to take up a spell, like a prepared spell slot, and now you just get to have it, so... Okay, Blindness Deafness is good for utility. Gaseous Form is great for trappy dungeons, and you're getting the fly speed, so it's an early access to a flight speed. Animate Dead, I think, is one of the best spells in the game. Confusion, I think, is generally weak. Blight, I think, is very meh. Cloud Kill is verging on meh, but I can see it being pretty strong. And Contagion, I feel, is a trappy trap spell. However, yeah, I just don't like the spell. I don't think it needs to be... Yeah, I've said my piece about Contagion. Halo of Spores. If Halo of Spores was just on its own, I would say that this is one of the weakest second-level features ever. However, the fact that Symbiotic Entity exists directly improves Halos of Spores already. I just kind of wonder if there was a way that this could have been condensed into one feature here. It's strong, though. Like, what it can do is great. It feels pretty cool. And I think it makes for a lot of really interesting narration. You know, a lot of really... I think once you're playing a class like this, you're wanting to make one of those, like, oh, sickly, like, yeah, like, grim druids, you know? And it gets that across. It does. Fungal Infestation. This is just a not great feature, especially because we've seen something now come along that gets to do this without being tied to the Wisdom modifier. Fungal Infestation, I guess, to not break out of... Anyways. Yeah, Fungal Infestation, generally weak. Spreading Spores is it's just a straight-up enhancement to what is already a good feature. Gives you more, like, utility that you can get out of it. And I've seen stories online where people are like, this is where I really felt like I was coming into the Circle of Spores Druid, and my character got more fleshed out as soon as I got this feature. It looks interesting, and yeah, the only downside that I had was I was just more like, I wonder why you can't use your Halo of Spores reaction, and the only thing I can really think of is narration. So I don't think that necessarily deters from the feature itself. It just felt like a weird, I wonder. Fungal Body is, of course, amazing. You're just getting condition immunities to 4 of the most common, straight up, most common condition afflictions in the game. Any critical hit that hits you counts as a normal hit instead, unless you're incapacitated. I guess at the end of it all, I feel like I really like what this subclass wants to be, and I like the kind of characters that this is definitely going to inspire. And I love what this class can do for narration. So that is it for the Circle of Spores Druid. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you have a subclass that you'd like me to take a look at and kind of give you my opinions on, leave that down in the comment section below. Other than that, hey, I hope you guys are staying safe, staying entertained. I'm going to try and make as much content as I can while we're all stuck indoors. Like, do the bell thing, all the subscription stuff, whatever. Yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one.